Welcome to Blue Spoon Veggie. After a long Scottish winter, I relish any sign that spring is emerging. I love the vivid flowers of early spring, a reminder of all the colour that will soon return to our lives. The kitchen is no different when it comes to anticipating brighter days, while still craving the comforting foods that get us through winter. These rhubarb and custard tarts tick both of those boxes for me. A topping of sweet but delicately sharp forced pink rhubarb contrasts happily with the creamy vanilla custard, and both sit comfortably on a crisp puff pastry base. This pretty fruit, or is it a vegetable, is a treat for home cooks and only available for 2 to 3 months early in the year. Delicious in pies, crumbles, jams and fools, we certainly treat it as a fruit. Cared for and harvested only by candlelight to preserve its tender and sweet taste, the season is over before you know it, so let's take advantage of it now. If you also love rhubarb, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. The ingredients for the tarts are quite simple. You'll need puff pastry, I'm using pre-rolled, and for the custard layer, milk, an egg yolk, caster sugar, plain flour, and vanilla extract. Rhubarb is obviously the star ingredient, plus we're using some more sugar, more vanilla extract, and just 1 tablespoon of water to cook the rhubarb. Let's start by removing each end of the slender rhubarb stalks. As you may know, forced rhubarb is grown indoors in a sheltered, dark environment, which wakes the crowns from their winter slumber rather earlier than they might have liked. This leads to these very delicate and tender stems, rather than the sturdier main crop which we'll see later in the year. Now let's chop the rhubarb stems into small pieces. It's easy to take 2 or 3 stems and chop them at the same time. Transfer the chopped pieces to a bowl as you go. Then continue chopping the rest of the stems. Before we start cooking the rhubarb, preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius. I've grouped together what I'll need for cooking the rhubarb and also got a pan ready. I'm using a frying pan to allow the rhubarb room to spread out and cook down slowly. Transfer the rhubarb to the pan, every last precious piece. Add in the water and the sugar, and finally a teaspoon of vanilla. Start by cooking on a low heat. Gently stir the sugar in so it dissolves. You can see the moisture starting to be released from the rhubarb already. Increase the heat and let the rhubarb bubble away cheerfully. After around 5 minutes, the chunks will have softened significantly and we can take the pan off the heat. We're now going to remove the rhubarb pieces from the pan, leaving the vivid pink juice behind. We'll be returning the pan to the hob to give the juice a little extra cooking time. This will make sure our tarts are nice and crisp later on. Return the pan to the hob. Heat the beautiful pink juice until it bubbles. You can see it's already started to thicken slightly. After a few minutes, you'll see it becomes quite jammy and you can stop heating it at that point. Add the jammy juice back into the bowl of cooked rhubarb. You can see how luscious it's become. Gently reunite the rhubarb with its now thickened juice. Now let's turn to making the custard layer. Spoon 1 tablespoon of the milk into a mixing bowl. Then add in the egg yolk, In go the caster sugar and the plain flour. Now we're going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Let's whisk that all together until we have a smooth texture. Pour the rest of the milk into a small pan and put that on to heat up. Once it's hot, we're going to combine it with the eggy mixture. Pour the hot milk into the bowl, whisking as you go. Then pour this thin custard back into the pan. Heat gently and give the mixture a stir. It will instantly turn lumpy, but don't panic. All will be well in a few minutes. Stir again after a couple of minutes. It still looks lumpy, so let's allow the flour another couple of minutes to cook out. That's more like it. We want a thick, glossy custard for our tarts, and this is perfect. Transfer the finished custard to a small bowl for now. Then put to one side along with the cooked rhubarb. Now we're going to move on to preparing the pastry. Place the rolled pastry onto a mat or your worktop. For ease of measuring equal squares, I've also placed a ruler alongside the pastry. As we're making 6 tarts, you can see they will each be 12 centimetres square. I promise this is as mathy as things get. Measure out 12 centimetres along both short sides of the rectangle. Then cut the pastry in half horizontally. Then cut twice vertically so you end up with 6 squares. If you want to keep the tart design simple, then take a sharp knife and make a light score 1 centimetre from each edge of the square. Make sure you don't press too hard and cut all the way through. I'm going to make 2 of the 6 tarts look like this. We're going to make the rest of the tarts a little fancier, so take a deep breath. Take the first square and fold it diagonally. Then, with a small bladed knife, we're going to make a cut on 2 sides of the triangle. The cuts should stop short of the folded edge of the pastry, but can join at the opposite point. Things get a little fiddly now, but hold your nerve. Unfold the pastry, fold one of the cut edges back over, and press roughly into place for now. Then bring over the other side of the pastry frame and press that down too. We'll secure these parts once the tarts are on a baking tray. Transfer all the pastry squares to a baking tray lined with parchment paper. With a pastry brush, brush a little water under the loose parts and press into place. It's finally time to bring back our delicious tart fillings, the custard and rhubarb. That sounds wrong somehow, the rhubarb and custard, and assemble the tarts. Take a teaspoon of custard and spread over the central square of the tart. You don't need to be too precise with filling the square, but try to spread it fairly evenly. Then add a good spoonful of the rhubarb. Continue the same filling process with the remaining squares until all 4 of the fancier design are filled. Then you can just repeat with the simpler squares. If you like, you can give the tarts a little brush with some egg wash. This is just an egg yolk with a teaspoon of water whisked in. This step is an optional extra to give the pastry a slightly glossy finish. I'm giving the plainer tarts a coating of egg wash too, so nobody feels left out. Now let's pop all the tarts in the oven. After 18 minutes or so, it's time to remove the tarts from the oven. Leave them to cool slightly. They smell extremely delicious. Now you can transfer them to a serving plate and enjoy. I promise you the flavour combination is heavenly and indulgent, and you might just want to eat the whole plate yourself. If there are any tarts left, then they are as tasty cold as they are warm. If you're enjoying cooking with rhubarb just now, I'd love you to comment and tell me what you've been making. Rhubarb fans, please also give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more recipes from Blue Spoon Veggie.